Welcome back, everyone. So we often think about humanity's role, our job here on Earth. And usually it sounds pretty simple: preservation. Keep things running smoothly, don't mess anything up too much, maybe plant a few trees.
Right, like cosmic caretakers.
Exactly. But today we're going to dig into some really fascinating sources. We're talking Genesis, but also some major Kabbalistic ideas that suggest something, well, much bigger. It seems our real purpose isn't just maintenance. It's more like being active partners in creation itself.
That's really the core idea we're unpacking. The mission, according to these texts, isn't just to, polish what's already finished.
Yeah.
They put forward this quite radical thought. What if the world was deliberately made incomplete?
Incomplete. How so?
Like God intentionally left gaps, left things unfinished. And maybe our main job as humans is to find those gaps and, well, fill them.
Yeah.
To be actual partners in the ongoing work of creation.
Okay, that's a big shift. And you mentioned the real surprise here connects to Cain, usually just seen as, the first murderer.
It's pretty startling, but yes. These sources seem to tie humanity's greatest engine for innovation, for creativity, directly to the figure of Cain.
How does that work? That's what we need to figure out today. All right, so to grasp this whole partnership idea, maybe we first need to understand who we are, according to these sources. We usually see Cain and Abel as just opposites. Good and evil, maybe.
Well, it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
There's a major Kabbalistic work, the Shar Hagil that gets into this.
Shar Hagil, right, a key text in Lurianic Kabbalah. What does it say about our souls?
It identifies these two distinct types, or maybe natures, within humanity. Souls with Abel's nature and souls with Cain's nature. But crucially, and this is really important, it's framed as a difference in character and temperament. It's explicitly not a simple split between good guys and bad guys.
Not good versus evil.
No. The sources are clear. Even really great, righteous leaders can possess this Cain nature.
Okay, so it's less about morality and more about how we're wired. The Abel souls are described as, what, gentler?
Yeah, gentler, more pleasant, perhaps more content with things as they are. Maybe like the preservation instinct we talked about earlier.
And the Cain souls?
They're described as stronger, more intense.
Yeah.
And critically, they possess this powerful drive to create, to change things, to innovate.
And when you look back at Genesis, Cain's legacy, it's actually huge, isn't it?
It's immense. He's the very first person recorded as building anything substantial. He builds a whole city.
The city builder and his descendants.
They essentially become the founding fathers of human civilization as we know it.
Right. You have the first nomadic shepherd, the inventor of musical instruments, and the first metalworker, the one who creates tools but also weapons.
That's an incredible amount of progress, of sheer creation, stemming from this one line.
Which brings us straight to that paradox you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. This Cain nature holds this tremendous power for innovation, for building civilizations. But it's the same nature, the same drive that holds immense danger. The impulse that builds the city seems connected to the impulse that led to the first murder. It's like the engine of progress has this inherent duality.
Wow. So creation and destruction are somehow linked in this nature.
It seems so. And this isn't just some ancient story. There's a fascinating point in the Midrash. I think it's Genesis Rabbah.
Ah, the collection of rabbinic stories and interpretations.
Yes. It suggests that both lines, Cain's and Abel's, actually continue throughout humanity. One tradition mentioned there suggests Cain's lineage might have survived the flood through Naama, one of his descendants, who, according to this particular Midrash, was Noah's wife.
So this split, this duality of the builder and the destroyer, the gentle soul and the driven soul, it's not just ancient history. It's potentially alive and kicking within us right now.
That's the implication. We all carry elements of both.
Okay, so if that's the kind of complex nature we've got inside us, this mix of builder and potential destroyer, then what's the mission? Is it really just about being, like you said, cosmic caretakers for the Garden of Eden?
Well, the sources really push back against that limited view. They point to a subtle clue. Back in Genesis chapter 2, verse 5, it notes that before Adam was created, there was no man to till the soil.
Right, and then Adam's job is to till it and tend it. Preservation, basically.
Yes, that's definitely part of it. Tilling and tending absolutely means preservation, taking care of what's there. But the sources argue that's just step one, the preliminary task.
Only preliminary. So if preservation isn't the whole picture, what is the ultimate goal? Is there a specific instruction, a mandate that tells us to actually intervene and improve things?
There is. The real action-oriented mandate, they argue, comes from the very end of the creation account, Genesis 2.3. It describes the Sabbath and says God rested from all the work which God created to do.
Created to do it. Lawsuit in Hebrew. I usually see that translated as just which God had done or finished.
Exactly. But the interpretation these sources focus on is that to do implies incompletion.
So God created the world in order for it to be worked on.
Precisely. It teaches that the world was intentionally created unfinished. If God created it to do, it implies he deliberately left things for humanity to complete, to improve, to actively do.
Okay, wow. So that little phrase becomes the permission slip, or even more the obligation.
The obligation, yes.
Yeah.
It tells us we're not just allowed to intervene in nature, we're actually required to.
So because the world is intentionally incomplete, things like healing the sick, helping the poor, developing agriculture, building things, that's not interfering, that's fulfilling the mandate.
That's the argument. It shifts our role dramatically from passive observers or caretakers to active finishers, active partners.
It's a fundamental shift in perspective.
It really is. And you see this principle reflected, maybe surprisingly, in certain religious acts. Take circumcision, for example.
How does that fit in?
The underlying idea there, according to some interpretations, is that humans don't just accept nature as it is. They take the natural form and deliberately act upon it to refine it, perfect it in a way.
So even something like that expresses this idea of improving upon the given.
It's one example of that principle in action.
Calling this partnership, that still feels quite radical compared to just stewardship. It really elevates human action to, like, co-creation.
It does, and that's the definition of this creative imperative we're talking about. It's about channeling that internal Cain nature, that drive to build and innovate towards improvement, towards completing the world.
And this applies across the board, not just physical stuff.
Everywhere. Physical realm, absolutely agriculture, technology, building cities, but also the spiritual realm, creating music, art, developing understanding, even the ongoing interpretation and application of Torah itself. Innovation, guided properly, becomes the core command.
Okay, this is fascinating. If this creative drive, this nature of Cain, is the engine meant to fulfill this divine plan of completion, well, here's the big question, isn't it? What about the danger? What are the guardrails?
Exactly. How do we make sure we're using this incredible power correctly?
Especially now. I mean, the power we have today.
We have to put it in context. The tools we have now, technologically, scientifically, are things previous generations couldn't even have dreamed of. The question isn't really if we can innovate anymore.
No, the question is, what are we actually doing with this power? And maybe more importantly, are we truly ready for the consequences?
And this is where the sources bring in this crucial idea of timing, the danger of prematurity. They use this powerful analogy of ripeness.
Ripeness, like fruit.
Kind of, yeah. The sages, when discussing King David and Bathsheba, made this comment, something like, she was intended for David all along, but he took her before she was ripe.
So the potential connection was there, maybe even destined, but the timing was wrong. He acted too soon.
Exactly. The idea itself wasn't necessarily the problem, but the execution, the timing was disastrously off. It wasn't ripe.
And the sources connect this concept of ripeness back to the very beginning, to the tree of knowledge.
They do. The argument goes that Adam ate the fruit before its time. The issue wasn't necessarily that the fruit itself was inherently evil or eternally forbidden.
But that humanity wasn't ready for that knowledge yet. It wasn't ripe for consumption.
Precisely. It was a premature grasp for power, for knowledge, before the wisdom and maturity to handle it were fully developed.
Okay, so that becomes the test for us right now, doesn't it?
It does. Do we currently possess more power, more capacity to change the world, to innovate, maybe even to destroy, than we actually have the wisdom to manage responsibly?
Is our wisdom keeping pace with our actions, our ability to create?
That's the core question.
Yeah.
And it suggests that just having knowledge or power, just being clever or innovative, isn't enough.
You need something more. Responsibility, ethical awareness.
Yes. There needs to be a deeper sense of responsibility guiding that powerful creative impulse. The sources point to a principle from the Mishnah.
Which one?
It says something to the effect of, fear of sin should take precedence over wisdom.
That sounds almost anti-intellectual, but that's not the point, is it?
No, not at all. Wisdom is essential. But the point is that the ethical application, the awareness of potential consequences, the fear of getting it wrong, must guide how we use that wisdom and power.
So knowing how and when to use the power is more important than just having the power.
Exactly. If you act before things are ripe, before you have the wisdom to handle it, you risk unleashing chaos instead of completing creation.
So this incredible gift, the power to be partners in creation, comes with this immense burden of responsibility.
It does. And managing that responsibility, channeling that powerful, necessary drive to innovate and build correctly, that's the task entrusted to that complex nature of Cain that exists within all of us. Hashtag outro.
Wow. Okay, that was a really deep dive. We've gone from redefining human nature, seeing that Cain nature not just as destructive, but as the very engine of innovation,
The creative spark.
to understanding our mission as way beyond simple preservation. We're meant to be active partners in finishing creation.
Right, completing the work.
And then landing on this critical point about responsibility, wisdom, and especially timing. Getting the ripeness right when we use our creative power.
It ties it all together. The power is immense. The mandate is clear, but the responsibility is staggering. And maybe if we could leave you, our listeners, with one final thought to chew on, something that really comes out of these sources. It's this. If that powerful creative energy in us is linked to Cain's nature, and yet Cain himself is the first murderer, how do we today, in our world, draw the line?
Draw the line between what?
Between the kind of innovation that genuinely improves the world, that completes creation, and the kind of innovation that maybe because it's premature or reckless or lacks wisdom ends up being destructive.
What is the line between creative construction and creative destruction? That's a heavy question.
It is.
Something to definitely keep in mind as you approach your own tasks, your own creative work this week. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.